say it out loud that you're going to do something, because then you feel the pressure. So like say, hey, next Friday I'm publishing this. So say it out loud, and then, because then it will force you to do it. I find that ADHDers do things well under pressure. So it's like if there's a deadline, they will procrastinate until the night before, but they will get it done.
In this episode, I'm going to talk to Jenna Redfield, who is a marketing consultant, video editor, and Notion ambassador. We're going to dive into how to manage ADHD in marketing, talk about actionable tips on staying disciplined and persistent in our career despite feeling overwhelmed or having too many distractions around our environment. So Jenna is also a YouTuber who talks about managing ADHD with Notion. So if that's something that you're interested in, I highly recommend you to check out the show notes and check out her YouTube channel. I personally feel really close to this episode because I believe that we must care for our mental health to achieve more and become our best selves. Now let's get into the episode. So could you tell us what you do today as a marketer? How does your day-to-day look like?
Yeah, so I'm kind of a freelance marketing consultant / video editor. So that's kind of what I do for a lot of people. I do mostly short form content, so like reels, TikToks, shorts. And so I have a couple different clients that I create videos for. I also have another business locally that I run here in the Twin Cities called Twin Cities Collective, where I host events and workshops. And then I also run my YouTube channel, and I do a lot of stuff with Notion. So I have my courses and templates, and then my YouTube channel, I talk specifically about how to use Notion, like for marketing or for business or for, having ADHD, my personal life. It just kind of does everything. So I do a lot of different things. It's kind of fun to have a variety.
Wow, I actually did not know you do so much at once. Yeah. So I have an extra question, did you build it up one by one? How did you start to scale to this much stuff?
Yeah, so I graduated from college in 2014, and I had a degree in video production, like editing. So I wanted to go into that, but I couldn't really find a full-time job in that, as well as social media marketing, because back then that wasn't a thing. Like social media marketing and video editing were two different things. Now they're kind of the same. But I ended up starting a blog and my YouTube channel back then, but it was just really I didn't know what I was doing. So I was just trying something out. And then over the years, I started working in marketing, and then I started the local company in 2016. So I've been doing that for 7 years. And then along with that, the podcast that I have now originally was a local podcast, and I've kind of transitioned that to more just online. But yeah, it's every year, I'll come up with a new idea or I'll transition. I've always had multiple things I've been working on. Otherwise I get bored. Having ADHD, if I just do one thing all the time, I just would get so bored. So I like to have a variety, but sometimes it gets overwhelming too, because I was like, oh wait, which one should I focus on now? There is a lot of different time management is a struggle for me. So it's figuring out how much do I spend on this versus this, and focusing on monetizing and all the things that comes along with, having a business, is which one is bringing in the most money right now, or which one do I enjoy right now, and which one should I focus. It's definitely a challenge, and I wouldn't say I'm the best at it, but that's why tools like Notion have been helpful for me to kind of organize all the things I need to do, my to-do list, the contacts that I need to talk to, all my schedule, that sort of thing. So I need to have organized systems in order to manage all of this.
Yeah, that's really cool. How much time does the actual event, for example, take from your time? Because I guess that's the most, for me, that sounds like the most time consuming to actually do an in-person something.
Yeah, so I do events. Well, so I just launched a membership for events locally. So before I was just doing every event every couple months, and I'd have to be marketing it through my followers of that local account. But now people have signed up and they can come to events all year round. So it's kind of just now planning the events, figuring out the location, getting food and stuff for it. So it is a lot of steps. I never thought I would be an event planner, event organizer. It's not my favorite part of my job, but I like having the connections with the local people, and I enjoy marketing the events and getting people together. So for me, I use social media as a tool to market those. And then I do have some volunteers and things that help at the event. So the event that we had just a couple weeks ago, we had about 40 people, 40, 50 people. So it was like, a networking event that I did, and we had food and stuff, and it was really fun. And so I enjoyed having that locally, and I built up quite a large audience. So that's been really fun.
That's so cool. I mean, congratulations, because event management is no joke. I never aspired to be an event manager either, but I'm part of my local Toastmaster group, and it's
yeah.
Oh, you know? Okay,
Yeah, I was in
that's so cool.
Toastmasters in high school. They had
Oh,
it
that's
at my
so
high
cool.
school. Yeah.
Well, you're
That's awesome.
lucky. I mean, I wish I had it,
Yeah.
So yeah, like being part of the Toastmaster group is also like a 40, 50, 30 to 50 people kind of deal. But then I slowly, like, I got into the SEO space, and now we are like hosting conferences, which
Wow.
is like Toastmasters on steroids. So that's all. But it's interesting, like people who are really like ambitious and like really like to talk to people, all of a sudden they just come into event management. I don't know.
You
Yeah,
kind of have to, yeah.
exactly. I would like to ask you, like, how did the ADHD, were you diagnosed, or like how did you realize, and how did you tackle all the, I guess, like life situations that come with it to do
Yeah,
all
so
this? Because you do a
so
lot.
yeah, I do. Well, it's funny, like when I realized that I had ADHD, I told everyone, and they're all like, that's not a shock. Like none of them were shocked that when I found out that I had it. Like it was like, oh, why didn't you tell me? I went through, because I was like 28 or something when I found out that I had it, and I was like, oh, so that was like during the pandemic. So it was like 2020. And I kept seeing content about ADHD, and every single video I'm like, that's me, that's me, that's me. Like, why have I never heard of this? And, women are very underdiagnosed. And so it's like growing up. Yeah. So like, because it's like hidden a little bit more, it's more inside your head, not so much external. But then you read through all the signs, and it's like, I look back at my childhood and that sort of thing. And I was actually just reading a Twitter thread yesterday where a girl was going through every single thing. And I'm like, I have every single one of those things that she said. So it's like, it was very eye opening. It was actually very exciting, because it's like, I have an answer to why I am the way I am. I thought it was just my personality. Turns out it's a mental disorder, which is like, it's good. I'm actually not medicated right now. I may in the future, but I'm trying to like learn as much as I can of the cognitive changes, like just getting habits built, and working on just the things that I can do myself, because it's not something that you can really cure. You can take medication, but it's not something that you can fully like become non-ADHD, if that makes sense. Like there's nothing, you just have to learn how to live with it and like figure out tools and solutions. So that's why my YouTube channel, I talk about it a lot on there, is like, what are the tools that I found helpful that I think other people might as well? Because I've definitely built some really good systems for myself that I think others could use as well. So it's definitely been, I think the hardest thing for me is like, focus, for me, it's not organization as much the issue. It's more of, I don't know, anxiety has been a big part of my life. A lot of it is emotional overwhelm, getting stuck. That's like a lot of what happens to me is like, I'm either understimulated or overstimulated at all times. Okay. So it's like I'm either bored or like I have way too much. So it's like I'm trying to find that middle ground, and that's a struggle for me for sure.
I see. And my question is like, how come you chose Notion? Because I also use Notion, and you really need to like sit down and figure out. I mean, there are some built-in templates. Okay, fine, but to really tailor it for yourself, you really have to like kind of sit down and figure it out. And I don't know why you chose Notion for it.
Yeah, it's funny because a lot of people ask me that. It's funny. I actually have a group on Facebook called ADHD and Notion, which is for people that have ADHD. Yeah, and there's like 3,000 people in there. So I'm not the only. Like I started it like 2 years ago, and every day I get people joining it because we've actually found that Notion is a great tool for ADHD because it's so customizable, which some of the other apps, they're very structured, and it's like you have to use them this way because that is how they're made. With Notion being kind of a blank slate, you can kind of set it up however your brain works, and that's why I always recommend it to people. It is a lot of work to learn, but once you learn it, you can kind of make whatever you want for yourself. You can create like habit trackers, that sort of thing. I like to plan my groceries. I like to plan my projects and things. And like there's a million things I use it for. And instead of having 800 tools, Notion can do all of it. So it's like I'm actually lessening the number of tools I'm using by using Notion. So I have a whole video on my YouTube channel about how I don't use Google Drive anymore. Because everything I do is through either Notion or Google Photos. Those are like the two apps I use. So it's like any content I'll put on Google Photos, and then everything else goes on Notion. So I don't know. I got sucked into it. That's another thing about ADHD is there's a concept called hyperfocus, where you get like really into something and then you just like focus on that for a while. And that is something that happened with me with Notion. Is once I got into it, I just got really into it, and I didn't want to stop talking about it because I felt like it really improved my life. And I'm also very tech savvy, so for me it was easier to use than maybe some people, but I also try to simplify it. That's why I teach it on my channel. I'm like, some people complicate it. I'm trying to simplify it. I'm trying to be like, here's like what you can do, how to get started. I have my Notion Foundations course, which walks you through step by step all of the different features of Notion, because there's a lot you can do on there, and sometimes the decision fatigue becomes a thing where you're like, what should I do? But I think figuring out how your brain works is really important for ADHDers. How do you best consume information? How best do you see your dashboard? Do you want a bunch of widgets, or is that distracting? Do you want to see all of your databases, or do you just want a button to have a shortcut to go there? Because if one of the things about ADHD is object permanence is a struggle, where if you don't see it, you forget it exists. So I think
like
having things, yeah, exactly. In your that don't get me started. Like I have so many foods that have I have to throw out because they've expired. But I think with Notion, it's like I have set up my dashboard so it's like the most commonly used pages. I have button shortcuts because I'm like, those are the pages I need to access, and I can see them all on the home page. So it's like, oh, yep, I got to go check that, or I got to go check that. And I think if you forget about them and they're buried deep into Notion, you're never going to find them again, and it's not going to be helpful to you. So I think finding what works for your brain is what I've been kind of preaching on my channel, is just figure out what works for you when it comes to Notion. And if it's another tool, great. But I personally just like Notion a lot.
Yeah. I don't know. Like sometimes when I think of ADHD, like I also think of like really hard to stick with discipline, but like I see you always publish your podcast. You are really consistent with your YouTube channel and your Instagram. Like, but then, what advice would you give to fellow ADHDers with discipline? Like, I mean, you could use the best tools on earth. You could like be the master of Notion, but I think without discipline, it would be really hard to do anything, right?
It is, and I do struggle with that. I think with content for me, I'm just able to publish it fast, so it's easier for me. And then one of the things I've learned about myself is say it out loud that you're going to do something, because then you feel the pressure. So like say, hey, next Friday I'm publishing this. So say it out loud, and then, because then it will force you to do it. Because I find that ADHDers do things well under pressure. So it's like if there's a deadline, they will procrastinate until the night before, but they will get it done. You know, so it's like as long as you have like a public thing where you're like, oh, this has to go out by this date because I told my entire audience it's coming. It's like forcing me to do it. That's what works for me. And so I actually just published this week the next 2 months of content for my YouTube channel. I'm like, this is the dates that these are. I know.
Really?
Well, it's like once a week, so it's 10 videos basically. So it's.
I mean, still, it's 10 videos. It took me. I don't want to tell. It took me 2 weeks to make one video, like my first one on my YouTube channel. I mean, okay, I'm also very.
I've also been doing this for 10 years, so it's like I can make videos really fast. I went to school for video, so it's not difficult for me. So it's like I think that's the thing is, for some people, content is hard. For me, it's easy. So it's like that might be the reason is like, but there's other things, like like there's other things in my life that I'm terrible at, that I I've procrastinated on getting a passport, and now it's been 3 years and I don't have a passport. Like there's certain things that like I just I avoided. That's another tendency of mine, is I avoid things that are like hard or like things I don't want to do. But with content, I want to do it, so it's easier to do for me. But some people hate content. They're like, I know I have to make it, I don't want to make it, so then they avoid it and don't do it. So I think it really just depends on what your interests are. For me, like my goal is I'm like once a week video. That has just like been like I'm able to like tell myself like I gotta do this like today.
Hi, if you listen to this far, thank you so much for listening. And if you enjoyed the show, please leave me a review on either Apple Podcast, Spotify, or my YouTube channel. If you have any feedback for the show, please let me know on the Aspiring CMO Podcast social media pages on Facebook and Instagram, or send me an email on my website. Now, let's get back to the episode.
Like yesterday, I ended up filming and editing the video in the morning. Like I literally like did it before work. Like I was like, I filmed the video. I knew exactly what I was going to do. I edited it, published it, and then I had to drive. I did do a 2-hour drive to a client. So it was like, I got it done, you know? So it's like, done is better than perfect too. Like I don't usually, do multiple takes. I just do one take and I'm like, that's it. Like it's not, you know, it's not my full-time job. Like there's some people on YouTube that spend hours and hours and hours and making this perfect video, and I'm like, I'd rather just make a video and move on to the next one. Like I'd rather have more content that's good. Like it's not like crap videos, but it's like I don't need to spend forever on one video, because I think then when it underperforms, you're like, oh, I spent so much time on that. And it's like, just do what you can, get the message out there, and then move on to the next thing.
Yeah. Okay. That's a great tip, because I just started my YouTube channel too. I've been publishing the podcast episodes on YouTube, but I think it gives more value to anybody who would be on my channel for me to give tips as well. So that's really interesting. And about your video editing process, I think now I just started video editing on a little bit more serious level, and I see that you have to be very organized, in my opinion, to edit. Like the editing process is a creative process, but before the editing, you need to be very organized. What's your tip for that?
Well, it depends on how you're getting your footage. So are you filming on your computer? Are you filming on a camera? How are you filming your videos?
I'm filming just my phone.
Your phone. So are you editing on your phone, or are you editing on your computer?
On my computer.
So are you like airdropping or just sending video files? Okay. So how many video clips do you usually have for a video?
Around like 10, I think.
10. Is it like multiple takes, or it's just like little clips that you put together?
Oh my god. I guess it's like multiple clips, because like I don't really talk too long in a take. So yeah.
So you're kind of just popping them into the editor and like making it one long video. How long are your videos?
Kinda. I mean, I also cut it out and to make it more cohesive, I think. Like the A cuts, I'm trying to pay attention to that more, and I'm trying to bring in more like memes or you know, like B-rolls, and that's when I get dizzy. That's when I'm like, oh my god.
Yeah.
Plus like titles in transitions and like so those are the things that like, oh, I think I should be more organized on that part. But
yeah, I think it's just I think the biggest thing is having a vision and figuring out what you want, seeing what you have, and then making it the most engaging that you can, and cutting out the stuff that is crap, I guess, like the ums and the pauses and the things that aren't interesting, I guess. I think you just figure out what's the most important parts that you want to keep, and how do you make it more interesting? For me, I've just learned I don't spend too long. I used to do a lot more editing on my videos, but I just don't have the time. I have so many other things that I'm doing. I want to obviously pop in things that are relevant and important, but one of the things I do is, because I do a lot of Notion videos, I record myself on my screen, doing a lot of screen recordings. So it's easier for me to just film myself. So I use OBS and I just film myself with my screen and just kind of walk through a Notion tutorial. So it's not too much editing with that. But if I was doing another type of video, yeah, I would probably add a lot more transitions and B-roll and that sort of thing. But because I'm doing mostly Notion tutorials, it's a little bit easier to edit those types of videos. So it just depends on the type of videos you're doing. If you're doing like a vlog or you're doing more of a sit-down video, it's a little different. It just depends on the video that you're doing.
Yeah. So. I know that you also have like your Notion bundle just launched, right? What is in the bundle? Actually?
Yeah, so it's called Notion Foundations All Access. So I had a couple of different courses, I had a couple of templates, and I was like, why don't I just put everything together and you get everything? So you get 2 courses. One is the Notion Foundations, which is like how to use Notion. I also have one called Notion Template Creator, which is actually like kind of how to like become a Notion YouTuber, like how to create a template and actually market it. And then I have 3 templates. I've got the business tracker, life tracker, and content calendar template. So that's helping you like organize your marketing. And then monthly workshops and monthly office hours. So basically that's you get all that. Yeah. So you get a lot for, it's $147 US. And I think it's a good deal because you get a lot with it. And we just started selling it like 2 weeks ago. And I'm like, this is now my main thing that I'm offering. So I still sell the templates separately, but I really want people to get this, because then it's like if you have a template and you don't know how to use it, that's not really helpful. So it's like I have the course that also walks you through how to use Notion step by step. So
that's very cool. Do you consult companies to use Notion as well? Like
not currently. Yeah, I was actually, I just went to my first ever local Notion meetup last night. I actually put together a couple of people I've met who do Notion, and we were talking about this, and I was like, right now I'm not, but I do marketing consulting. So because that's more of my background, I do a lot of marketing consulting versus Notion consulting, but I like teaching Notion. I like doing the videos about Notion. So that's kind of what I'm sticking to right now is like, if you need help, come to my office hours, if you're part of the package. Because what I found is that like a lot of people can learn Notion just from watching videos, honestly. Like and then learning based off of yourself. I think there are some great Notion consultants out there, and I have some contacts if people need them. I actually might I've been thinking about putting together like a list on my website of Notion consultants that I recommend, because I'm not doing it right now. I want obviously to send people to people that they could use, and there's different people that have different skills too. So it's like you might need someone that does maybe more of the DIY, like helping you through it, and then there's some people where they just need the data set up for them and they don't want to spend the time. So it really depends on what you need for Notion. For me, like what I've found is I just really like being an educator of Notion and more of the teacher through my courses and my YouTube videos.
Yeah. So. What do you recommend like for someone who wants to start to sell courses? Like I see that our education system all around the world is getting like, everybody is like seeing it's a scam, right? So I see that the course economy or course, I don't know how you call this world is gonna get more mainstream later on. So I assume it's gonna be a lot more course creators out there. But like, what do you recommend for someone who wants to start the course or something, or like and sell it too?
Yeah, so I use a couple different tools. I use for my funnels, which is my like sales page. I use a software called FG Funnels, which
I never heard of it.
Yeah, it's actually based off of this software called Go High Level, which is like kind of a CRM software. So FG Funnels is these 2 women are basically white labeling a software through High Level, but you get a bunch of really good templates for your funnels. So it's called fgfunnels.com. And then that's also my email list. So my email marketing is through that. And then I also have Thrivecart is where I actually host my courses for Notion. So Thrivecart is a checkout website where you can set up an order form, but it also has course.
Right.
Yeah, so people can pay, but it's also they also launched like 2 years ago course hosting. And what I love about Thrivecart is it's a one-time fee, so you don't have to pay every month. It's a one-time fee of like $700, and that's it. So I don't have to pay monthly like Kajabi or some of these other ones. So now forever I have it. Like I have Thrivecart, and so it's actually in the long run a lot cheaper. And it's actually a pretty good software. And so I actually embed the checkout form into my FG Funnels funnel, because they do have funnels in Thrivecart, but I just prefer FG because I'm already paying for it and I have all my websites on there. So I don't know. And again, I went through a whole sales funnel training. So like I'm very like knowledgeable in that world. And so not everyone can. I mean, honestly, there's like Teachable, there's Thinkific, there's a bunch of different course hosting sites. You just have to find the one that's in your budget. And then you have to make the videos. So that's the other part is like you have to make a video. Another one is like Circle, which is more of like a membership. So there's like a bunch of different options for I actually think I have a YouTube video about this, but it's like, and then also Notion like helps me plan the course. So I actually have a Notion board of like each individual module that I've planned out. So it's helped me when I was recording the videos, like, all right, have I done this episode or this video? So I think having it organized and planned out and being like, what is this course even about? Like, what do I want to get out of it? I'm actually probably going to go through and redo the course because the Notion Foundations I did last fall and Notion has changed since then. So it's like, I want to make sure it's updated because, you know, some of the things I talked about then aren't up to date. So it's like, I want to make sure that everything is up to date. So I'm probably this summer at some point going to re-record some of the episodes or some of the videos in the course because I want to make sure that they're constantly up to date with what's going on in Notion.
Yeah, awesome. Yeah, I just saw the changes too. You can do a lot more now on Notion. I like their dashboard.
Yeah.
There's this like function where you can track your progress or something,
Yes,
and they
the
calculate it
progress
based
bar.
on how many tasks you done. So that's awesome. I tried to. I think I brought like some company SOPs onto Notion, which was pretty nice for me. But then I had to like train others. Like, okay, this is how you log into Notion. This is what you do. This is basically a website. So it's kind of just act like it, just think like it. Yeah. There's this one question I wanted to ask you, like, how do you overcome like the emotional, like feeling overwhelmed when you have ADHD to do all this, like creating courses and like the sales fund, the things you're doing is very complex, right? And like just video editing alone, I think it's already complex, but then on top of it, you're doing a lot more. And how do you overcome that feeling of feeling overwhelmed?
I think one of the things that's really important to me is I go on a walk every day outside, getting into nature. Unfortunately, where I live, it's not like warm out most of the year. It's cold. So I actually have a walking treadmill by my desk because I think getting your steps in is really important. So getting outside, going on a walk, and then also like I think not taking on too much. Sometimes when I've taken on too much, I do have to be like, all right, I can't take on any more. So having boundaries. And then the other one that I think is really important that we don't talk about enough is having high self-worth. I love doing affirmations every day. And like just saying like, hey, like you're a good person. This is like your value isn't what you produce. It's just who you are. I actually read a really good book and I had the author on my podcast. It's called The Bug in Our Brain. Highly recommend it. It's one of the books that changed my life. And it really made me realize that having like a high sense of self-worth without being productive is really important. And so I think, and there's tools that are helpful for me to, I think Notion is a great tool for overwhelm because you can see everything. You can write, you can kind of brain dump and put everything that is in your head on a paper. And then I have so many tools. There's one called Scary Hour where you just for an hour, just do all the things that you don't want to do. Like it's all the scary things that you're like, I've been avoiding. So it's called Scary Hour. You do it for 1 hour every day. So there's like all these tools. And then there's another one. I'm reading this book right now called The War of Art by Stephen Pressfield, which is about resistance and overcoming resistance. And so it's like a lot of the overwhelm and procrastination comes from this like invisible force called resistance where you're trying to get through that as an artist or as a creator. Highly recommend that book. It's really good. It's really short. But I think like figuring out, because that happened this week, like I was very overwhelmed. I was like, I have way too much on my plate. Sometimes you just have to take a step back, but then like just step by step, getting the little things done, going through your to-do list, making sure that I struggle with prioritization, like because you have like 8 things that are number one priority. It's like, how do you do that? I think prioritizing your health, your mental health first, and then clients, because you like when you are creating content, it's better to have people answer to first than content. So if you're behind on working with your clients, that's probably a higher priority than making content. Because like making content is to get new clients, right? So it's like, I think that, so it's like figuring out what, like if you didn't work with your client and you don't email them back, but you make a piece of content, that's going to be like a worse thing than getting back to them. So it's like prioritizing what is the most valuable thing for you to do in that moment. So I think that there's just figuring out like if I lost one of these two things, which would be the worst consequence, I would probably be losing the client. So you've got to work on that first. And then also just like knowing when it's time to quit. If you have to, I've quit many things and it's okay to quit things because it only really matters to you. It's like, it's your life and people will support you no matter what you do. So I have thought about leaving my podcast because I'm like, I have a YouTube channel, I have, short form content. It's like, do I also need a podcast? Like I'm still kind of in that decisive mode of like, I don't know. Like I'm still kind of figuring that out because I have so many other things. Am I taking on more than I can handle? So I think just figuring out what matters to you and prioritizing.
I love that. I think this was a great summary on prioritization. I actually quit my job. Like I am no longer like working for a company just for a period of time because I really wanted to explore what it would be like to be just full-time content creator, making the content I want to make and test out things the way I want to. And it's just that I get rid of the bureaucracy and like hierarchy or something.
Yeah.
Which, but it's opened so many doors, right? Like I get more time for networking and like, there's some cool things about like knowing what you want and taking it into action. All right. And my last question for you is, if you were to go back to your early 20s, what advice would you give to that person?
Oh, that's a great question because I was very lost in my early 20s. I think I would just say you'll figure it out because at the time I didn't think I would, but also that it's not going to be an easy path, but you're going to get through it. I think our early 20s is the time of life that is the hardest in my opinion because you've been in school your whole life. And then all of a sudden you're like, you can do whatever you want. You can have a full-time job. You can go freelance. You can do whatever you want. And that is like scary to be like, I don't know if I'm making the right decision, but just follow your gut. Network. This is a really important thing I always tell people is build your network. Like I was lucky that like I figured out at like 23, 24 that I really like networking, but I would say like 80% of my success is through networking. Like it's meeting people, staying in touch with them, going on LinkedIn, following people, inviting them to coffee, going to networking events, network, because your network is your net worth. And I think that it's all about building. And a lot of young people are not used to that. They're like, I was just in school. Like, I just knew the people I knew. Find people of different ages. Get a mentor. Like, find people. Like, a lot of the people I know are 20 years older than me. They have been through this already. Finding people of different ages. I would say that's my number one tip is network because I think it's so important.
Yeah. I hear this over and over again. And each time I'm thinking like, oh, should I go for a coffee for this person? Or should I cold DM someone? Cold DM you.
Do it.
Or just do it. Like, what's the worst case scenario anyway? Yeah. So
I cold DM people all the time. And what I like to do is I like to offer them something for free. Like, I'll feature you on my podcast or I'll feature you on my Instagram. And that way they usually say yes to that because it's like you reaching out to me. Like if it's something that benefits me, I'm probably going to say yes. I mean, some people just ignore it and don't say anything, and then you just move on. Like it's all about numbers. Like if you DM 100 people, I swear like 80% of them are probably going to say yes. So it's like it's just a numbers game, and like you just have to do it. And like people that are willing to do that are more successful in life, are the ones that are willing to step out of their comfort zone and actually reach out. I think those are the people that are the best in the world.
Yeah. So. All right. Well, and lastly, if people would like to reach out to you, how can they find you?
Yeah, I'm pretty active on all social, just at Jenna Redfield on basically every platform: Twitter, LinkedIn, Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, YouTube, and then jennaredfield.com. Yeah, that's how you can reach out.
Amazing. All right. Well, thank you, Jenna, so much for joining the Aspiring CMO show, and I hope you have a great day.
Yeah, thanks.